to day 10 and 11 of the Love Dare Challenge. This is Autumn and Ross Whittet and Auburn Whittet here today. And what we decided to do is we're going to just go over days 10 and 11 since we didn't get our video made yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that. Day 10 is called Love is Unconditional. And it's about how love is a choice and not just something that we feel or do because of any other conditions. The verse that it starts off with is Romans 5:8, and it says, God demonstrates his own love toward us, and that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And so basically what that is saying is that God doesn't love us because we are so lovable. He loves us because he is so loving. And that's why he sent his son to die on the cross for our sins, so that way we didn't have to live in this life of sin and, all the stuff that it comes with. So it starts off by asking, if someone were to ask you, why do you love your husband or why do you love your wife, we would probably start listing off different reasons why we love them. And that's all great, but in all reality, the reason we love our spouse is because we choose to love them. And it's called agape love. And what agape love is just, it's the kind of love that has nothing to do with emotion or feeling or sexual attraction or anything like that. It's nothing to do with anything but simply choosing to love that person just because that's what you're called to do. And so it says, lasting love is not determined by the one being loved, but rather than by the one choosing to love. And so if the marriage totally depends on having common interests or a healthy sex life or, just maybe going to watch the Mavericks, buying Maverick season tickets and going to all those games, if your marriage relies on those kinds of things, then it's not going to last because that's not what love is. Love is unconditional, and we know what love is from the sacrifice that God made by sending his son to die for us. That's how much he loved us, and so we're called to love everyone equally in that way, and we have to choose to love them. And it's harder some days than it is on others to choose to love your spouse because they might be doing something that's making you upset, or maybe they're in a season in their life where they're just it's not very fruitful. They're not really producing much fruit out of their actions. And we have to realize that God puts us in these seasons for a reason. And so that can't determine how much you love them. So whenever I'm having a really bad day or maybe a completely bad week and I'm doing things that he doesn't like, or, I'm not really on top of the mom duties and stuff, that he still has to love me because we made a covenant when we got married. And something that we learned at Re-Engage last week is that marriage is a covenant between you and God. It's not a contract. And we treat it like contracts these days because that's kind of what society teaches us, is just to go with your feelings, whatever you feel like doing, whatever's going to bring you happiness, to do that. But the truth is, there's never going to be a time, or there's never going to be something that you can physically have that's going to make you happy every single day. The happiness and the joy that you feel has to come from God, and that doesn't mean that you're going to be happy all the time still. That just means that no matter what's going on, no matter how bad things seem to be, you see the bigger picture. You always know the bigger picture and the big scheme of things. And so it's possible. We have to be aware of the fact that you can fall in and out of love with so many people throughout your lifetime. It's not that hard. You choose who you fall in love with. And so that's why the Bible tells us to guard our hearts and save our hearts for our spouse, because it's so easy. And especially if you're someone like me, because that was one thing that I've struggled with my whole life, is just falling in love with anyone and everyone that is going to give me the attention that I want at the time. But I've learned to realize that that's not real love. It's not real. So don't be deceived by that. I'm just going to read some things that I highlighted in the chapter. When your enjoyment of each other as both best friends and lovers is based on unwavering commitment, you will experience an intimacy that cannot be achieved in any other way. But you will struggle and ultimately fail to attain this kind of marriage unless you first allow God to begin establishing and growing His love within you. And that's really where we are right now in our in our marriage and in our lives, is really just establishing and growing that relationship with God, so that way we can build the kind of marriage together that we want to have, and set the example for our daughter that we want her to see, because we both came from broken families and it affected us both in huge ways. And so we know that that's not what we want for her or ourselves. And so that's really why we're doing this, is because we really have never had God be a part of our marriage or our relationship really whatsoever at any point. And so I'm just going to be honest with y'all. That's where we stand right now, is we're embracing and opening up our lives to let God work and move within us. So the challenge, or the dare of the day, was to do something out of the ordinary for your spouse. And so it was fun. And so I'm going to let him go ahead and talk about day 11. With this.
What's going on, guys? So I love day 10. Maybe you just did a great job of explaining that. And day 11, the chapter was called Love Cherishes. And the Bible verse for the chapter was Ephesians 5:28. The little excerpt they have here is, husbands ought also to love their wives as they love their own bodies. Okay, so just remember that as I'm going through this. The first thing it starts with is two scenarios. Okay, the first scenario is an old man who has car trouble. He has an older car, and he takes it in to get fixed. He has a budget, and the guy comes back and says, you need a full replacement. You need to fix your engine. You need to do all this stuff, and that was out of his budget. So what do you think he did? He went and traded his car in for a new car. And then the second scenario was an engineer shattered his hand, and he went in and got it looked at by the doctor, and the doctor pretty much said the same thing. You need a full replacement of your hand. But in this case, he didn't just trade in his hand. He got the necessary surgery done, put a cast on it, and let it heal. Took the time to let it heal. And so it goes in and says, in our culture today, with marriage, we treat it like the first scenario, and really treat it like it's a discardable possession. Okay, but the truth is that marriage is a lot more like the second scenario. You are part of one another. You would never cut off your hand if it was injured. And, you're going to pay for the best treatment to fix your hand, because your hand is a part of you. Trading in your car for a new one is not how we should treat our marriage. And that I really like that example. And so, it says, like I just said, your hand is a part of who you are, and so is your spouse. And so we are one. We are one. When one of us experiences tragedy, we both do. And the same thing on the flip side. When one of us achieves or has success, we both celebrate. And so then it goes further along. It says, somewhere along the way, your relationship begins to get broken. The reality sets in that you didn't marry an imperfect person. And, the truth is, we are human. None of us are imperfect. But in those first... Do what? I'm sorry, yes. None of us are perfect. But, whenever you first get in a relationship, you feel like they are. You're perfect, And so, but that doesn't change the fact that your spouse is still a part of you. Okay, and so go back to Ephesians 5:28. At the end of the verse, it talks about the word cherish, to cherish your body, and what cherish means is to make warm. And so we should always make our spouse feel warm. in this cold, unpredictable life. And then I really love this part. It goes in and talks, it says, this is mostly done by touching your spouse in non-sexual ways. Nourishing them with the warmth of your affection. And when you show your spouse that when you show love to your spouse, you're showing love to yourself. Okay, so let me back up. So, anytime that you show your spouse love, you're showing love to yourself, because we are one. Okay, and on the flip side, if you show, what's the word I'm looking for? If you mistreat your spouse, you're mistreating your own body. Okay, and this really hit home with me because it's true, and I've never looked at it from this perspective. It really hit home with me. So the reason is because your life is interwoven. Our lives are interwoven together, and so it says it's time to change your thinking and realize your spouse is a part of you, just like your hand, just like your eyes, your heart, your arms, your legs. Your spouse is part of you. And so then the last part says, think about how you treat your spouse's physical body. Do you cherish it as your own? Do you treat it with respect and tenderness? And when you look at, you have to realize when you look at your mate, you're looking at a part of you. And so, I keep saying this, but it really hit home with me because I never looked at it this way. And, I've always looked at Autumn as a separate person, because I just feel like that's how you think of people. But your spouse, when you take that covenant in marriage, your spouse becomes a part of you. So today's dare was, it says, how can you warm the heart of your spouse today? Look for opportunities to bring warmth to the coldness in your spouse's life. Give them an unexpected, tender touch, and that shows, I cherish you. And I know for us, this is big because we're both not really touchy-feely people, but just realize that it goes a long way. If Autumn's doing the dishes and I walk up behind her and put my arms around her, it means a lot to her, And so just think about it and do the little things. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. Thank y'all for watching. If you have any prayer requests, please reach out to us. You can message us on Facebook or email us. Subscribe to get email updates, and we will talk to y'all soon.